means to be human with me, Kate Sterling. So today I am so excited to have Jackie Macbeth on the podcast. Jackie founded Stir It Up Meal Kits in 2021 after a 10-year career as a sales and business development director to help busy parents feed their families well. In her own words, I happen to have a very choosy child and found myself cooking creatively twice daily just to get some goodness into her, and began to wonder if anyone else might benefit from these long and arduous hours spent in the kitchen. And so I began teaching children and their parents how to cook healthy food in schools, children's centres and all kinds of settings. Stir It Up is a local, ethical and sustainable company sourcing organic vegetables from smaller family-run farms for their kits. The company is largely plastic-free and delivers in reusable bags. It started with an idea about how to take the stress out of family meal times whilst making sure that everyone was eating as well as possible. And in February 2020, Jackie won a place on Impact Hub's Feeding the City Small Business Incubation Scheme. While the pandemic threw a large-sized spanner in the works, they launched in May 2021 after an intense crowdfunding campaign backed by the Mayor of London Fund. Since then, their mission has been to transform the way families buy, cook and eat food. And unlike supermarkets, they know exactly where their fresh produce comes from and who has grown it. They are committed to sourcing from smaller organic farms across the UK and Europe, but never using air freight. The value of integrity and appreciation is strong, with a commitment to supporting these farmers by paying them a fair price for their crops. Stir It Up is a community interest company, and they put people and planet before profit, with 66% of their profits being reinvested into neighbourhoods through donating dinner kits and surplus fresh produce to local food banks. And they are looking forward to teaching healthy cooking in the community again. Jackie is passionate about children's nutrition and getting them in the kitchen at every opportunity. Jackie, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kate. It's lovely to be here.
I absolutely am fascinated by this journey of going from sales and marketing and that kind of business side of things, which obviously, well, I assume forms an incredible foundation from what you have built. And then this very organic evolution of where the company has come from. Was there a moment, I just got this image of you like in your kitchen chopping like all that veg, just being like, I'm done with this, there has to be a different way, there has to be a different way of living life. Was it a moment like that, or was there like a slow burn leading up to the decision to launch?
Do you know what? I actually, I wanted to start with a kids' canteen. And when we started Feeding the City, when I won the place on Feeding the City, the business idea was actually to set up a kids' canteen, because I live in Brentford in West London, and it's a bit of a good food desert. So we've got like a pizza, I don't know, some pizza takeaway. We've got a McDonald's, we've got chicken shop, we can Kentucky Fried Chicken, but there's nothing really where you can take your kids cheaply for like say £3, £4 for a really nice, like easy meal, plain meal, but nutritious. And so that's what I wanted to do. And then of course COVID happened, so we couldn't pilot the idea. And also I was like, oh my god, I know nothing about hospitality, what am I thinking, and so I mean, I'd worked as a waitress before, but I don't think that's really sufficient. So the next thing, what we were going to do was create some meal kits that people could buy if they came in and their children liked what we were doing, and they could buy the meal kits to make at home. So that was the next step, really. We thought, well, if we can't have a canteen, let's offer local families a way to cook kind of really good food, kind of £3 a portion, and see where we went, just making it a little bit easier for families to feed their kids well.
Yeah, because it's fascinating to me. I feel like it's a real gap in the market, because so many meal kits or food home prepping kind of, services that we might use, or the idea of having pre-prepared meals delivered to you, actually can be quite expensive. When I used to work as a PT, for example, some people who are really into their nutrition would get, their home. It's so expensive. And this kind of embracing of this difference between the identity of well-being, for example, and the accessibility of it, and how I don't know. I think my question is like, did you find that families who might not have been able to say afford some of what we might see as more expensive products, was there a barrier to kind of getting through to those communities or individuals or families for them to realize actually that it was affordable and yet also high quality?
Yeah, I mean, many people came to me and said, are they ready cooked? Are they prepped, and do we just have to heat them up? And A, that costs so much more money. But B, I'm a massive fan of cooking. I think everybody should learn how to cook. I think it's a non-negotiable. I think the fact that, yeah, if you get older and you're talking about probably people who don't have any kids and have quite a lot of money, disposable income, yeah, it's fine if you can go out and cherry pick, the best nutrition, and you can have meal kits brought to you. But what happens if you have kids and they've never seen you cook, and they don't turn out to be quite as wealthy as you were, and maybe, that they still need to nourish themselves? And the only way to get that message through is to kids just learn by what you do, right? The first thing kids do will pick up your phone when they're tiny, because they see you using it all the time. And you don't even really need to teach kids how to cook. They'll just, by watching what you're doing and watching the vegetables that you use and watching your methods, it will, by osmosis, they'll learn how to nourish themselves. And for me, the meal kits aren't only kind of, yeah, it really helps busy mums. It helps people widen the variety of the dinners that they're eating. You know what it's like. You get used to the same 5 dinners week in, week out, because the kids will like it. And so this was a way to expand the scope of what people eat, and let them try a new veg, but also allow kids to see the joy, like beautiful different vegetables, and understand what it takes, what it is to nourish yourself. Because for me, that act of passing on the life skill of cooking, I mean, you're showing your children how to keep themselves healthy. It's not just a physical health, it's a mental health. I mean, it will reduce anxiety and make for mental resilience, which a lot of kids really lack these days. So for me, yes, being able to put it out there at a fairly cheap cost, I tried to keep it as cheap as possible as I could, given that it was organic ingredients, which obviously has a little bit of an extra value on it. But yeah, it was important for me that it was accessible to as many families as possible.
And how do you, I've just got this image of, how on earth do you store, what's the process? How do you keep on top of demand? Because does it fluctuate? Do you tell us a bit more about how you actually operate and keep it running?
So I still work from home. I'm really running out of room now.
You're surrounded by potatoes.
You have no idea. We had to build a marquee in the garden to help with really big days. I mean, the thing is, most of what I do, a lot of it is quite admin-y. So the only big day is Tuesday. So Tuesday's my delivery day. So all of the fresh veg comes in. It gets delivered at 2 a.m. I'm not up. He quite can't.
I was like, what?
So I take all that into the kitchen, and I have my little setup in the kitchen, but I do everything by hand, even the little kind of portion pots and things like that. They're all done by hand, because they're all nothing's plastic, everything's compostable, and I use paper bags a lot, to portion things, like if it's rice or pasta or something like that. So there's no unwanted plastic in it, but it is an operation, and I can't listen to the radio while I do it because it's really easy to miss things. So some of the recipes have 12 different ingredients in them, and you have to just I have to be really mindful of what I'm doing. And a really lovely lady, and she's the CEO of Sutton Community Farm. I went over to see her one morning on their delivery day, and she let me fill in all the bags, and I realized how difficult it was when you have to remember every single thing, all the items that go in a bag. Because if your mind is wavering for just a couple of seconds, you're like, oh my god, did I put the garlic in there? Did I do so? Yeah, it's an operation in concentration.
Absolutely. And I think like it's just so impressive, to be honest, because one of the things that I was so surprised about when I became a mum was the change in brain capacity. I was so naive to the impact that that was going to have. Like, I honestly just thought, oh, I've worked with kids for 20 years, I'll be fine. I just hadn't anticipated. Nothing prepares you for that change in brain capacity. Like, how on earth do you keep it separate from also the parenting and then also home? And do you find that that's something that we talk a lot about, like boundaries or having a home environment? You know, I work a lot from home and it's tricky because
Yeah.
home actually then becomes work.
Mm.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
how do you do it?
don't know if there are. I mean, you know, with women who work from home, it's a really difficult, you know, because I never used to bring my work home with me when I worked in an office. You know what? I think it's a family affair. The kids are always like, oh, you know, how many bags have you got today? Can we help with anything? So they enjoy filling in the little portion pots. And I mean, to be fair, I don't work in the evenings really. If I do, it's very minimal. Um, yeah, and they enjoy filming me, and so for Instagram, you know, a lot of what we do, it's all about, you know, business development. So they, you know, I film them cooking because it's very important to me that kids learn to cook. So they're quite happy to follow the recipes and be guinea pigs for my recipes and try things out for me. So I think it's I've been doing it for so long now. So my kids are now 15 and 13, but I mean they were only 10 and 8 when I started off. So it's just a massive part of their life now.
And what an amazing like eye opener to entrepreneurship and how we can create from an idea. And then, you know, they probably also, I'm sure, seen the challenges of that and the hard moments of like, oh my gosh, you know, the
Yeah.
pandemic and the fact you were probably also homeschooling. I can't even imagine that at the time. You know, it feels like a different chapter of life, the pandemic. But
Yeah.
even having this kind of stop starting of it, how did you
Yeah.
navigate that time to believe in your vision still?
Well, it was interesting because I did the foundation bit with Impact Hub in 2020, and I was supposed to be launching, and it would have been brilliant to launch during lockdown. And so I think so we had what the first, you know, when the kids were off school for that first portion from kind of, I don't know, March till September essentially. So I was like, right, I'm going to launch, you know, December, and that the second lockdown came in, and the kids, you know, I was getting all super frustrated with them, and they were asking me questions, and I went, you know what, I'm going to have to delay it. You just can't, can you? I mean, the kids came first. I noticed in particular, my son, who's an incredibly social animal, I could see how much he missed his friends and missed the socialization that he got at school, and he was really flying off the rails. So I felt that yeah, I really needed to just, it's just a job, right? I was really passionate about it. I was like, 6 months, I can launch in 6 months. So in the end, I launched in May 2021, and that was because of lockdown, and that was the right time. You know, the kids had gone back to school. I was able to focus on it, you know, 100%, because I was just getting annoyed with everyone, and you know, so it wasn't a good start to the business. So yeah, I just waited, and then, but also I think with businesses, as you probably know, you know, you don't ever feel like you're 100% ready. But the only thing to do is just launch and jump in and go, well, yeah, you know, and it is the only way to learn, isn't it? It's just by jumping in and
100%. It's almost like when the brain starts coming in and rationalizing it, that's when we talk ourselves out of doing what we want. And I think that's part of there's always the, you know, enjoy the process, and it's not the end results, who you become in it. And that's really annoying when you're in it and it's hard and
yeah,
it's like, oh, well, I just want the win. I want the win. You know, we do these things because we also want the validation almost of the idea, or the reward is the impact. And the fact that you reinvest
yeah.
66%, that's huge. Like, how I had, like, when I was you know, researching into the background of what you've built, I was like, how on earth do you keep that financially sustainable? Is it that you also have support from you know, the council, like these, you know, these ventures that would actually really benefit from council investment or local government, you know?
Yeah, I have done. Yeah, I have done. So I worked with a local girls' school last year, and I did some classes in like cookery classes in children's centres as well. So I've done work like that. I think I decided I wanted to be a community interest company because I felt that I wanted what I was doing to be more than just buying meal kits. I wanted, because I mean, the reason I set it up, if somebody could have paid me just to go out and tell people the same thing all again and again and again, I would have done it. Or what I care about, truthfully, is people eating well. It's like the single biggest thing you can do for yourself. And and we're living longer, but that doesn't mean to say we're going to live longer in a healthy way. We might have, be diagnosed with something at 70 and then have another 15 years of not so healthy life. And I'm an older mum, and it's really, really important to me to be active when if my children have children of their own, I want to be an active grandparent. So, I'm not saying, I don't do anything naughty, but, generally we eat really healthily. The kids, even if they sometimes have an issue with it, they know what they need to eat. And that's, for me, I did I did a big kind of health campaign before I set up Stir It Up. And that was just a community-based one in Brentford. But I loved it. I loved just getting that message out, and that's half the time. That's why I do a lot of Instagram work. Even if you're not buying my meal kits, I still want you to understand and learn about nutrition.
There's something so fueling about the deeper purpose as well, the kind of trust that actually, if you're so intent with the focus of whether you want to call it a mission or the impact or whatever, really there is such a connection with other people that's almost... like I talk a lot about money being an energy. Like there's also energy and you're receiving back from that impact that you have. It must be so rewarding to see people who might not think that eating well or eating healthily is for them, to see that actually it can be for them, and that we are so much more similar. We're so much more equal in society than what society makes us think. And it's all about where we're positioned and what we're born into, and the huge impact of that.
It absolutely is, because I think there is knowledge. There are different levels of nutritional knowledge, and it tends to be, I don't know whether it's social class but then the more money you have, the less worry you have about other things, and the more time you can spend on worrying about what you eat. If you're working like all the hours God sends, and you're worried about where you're going to live, and you're worried about your kids. You just want your kids to be fed. You're not really thinking about nutrition. And I think for people like me, it's almost like it's my goal and a challenge, and also my responsibility to make it accessible for everybody, so that irrespective of what kind of life you have and where you are, that's why I think where the government should maybe it really needs to do some work on that. There's a lot of things going on at the moment. And we know that it's so much cheaper to buy rubbish UPF food for your kids to fill them up than it is to buy fresh vegetables. How is that even possible? How is that possible? And I find it terrifying. At least we should live in a society where the poorest people know how to nourish them, have access to that food, and can nourish their children, because it's not a level playing field at all. And it's not in any Western country, generally isn't, although I think probably the UK and the US are pretty bad at it.
Which is so ironic, two of the richest companies on paper. And I think this essence of time is so important. When people have often said, oh, well, it doesn't cost more to eat well, they don't necessarily understand that the time, like you say, it takes to prepare a meal and to think about it and to buy good produce, not even good produce, just general produce. It is expensive, so of course you've got to save what you can, because we are primed to do it as easily as we can, especially when the plate is loaded.
Yeah, and there was, sometimes I once tagged quite a famous cookery author, because I made one of her dishes, and and one of my comments was, it's really quick, and she commented under it saying, oh, it's all about quick these days, isn't it? I didn't quite understand that, and I just thought it's just such a lack of perspective. You've got mums coming home at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Do they want to spend 2 hours in the kitchen? No. No. If you work in cookery, if you work in food, that's what you do all day, every day, right? You're in your kitchen. Your kids are probably eating the best food because that's what you do all day. But it's such a limited view, isn't it? That you think all kids A should love every single vegetable you put in front of them, because that's not going to happen. And B, that all women, because frankly it is mostly still women that put the food on the table. I hate to say it, but it is. I'd say 95% of my customers are the woman. It's the woman that will choose the meals, anyway. And yeah, so I think people who talk about that and who assume that we're all on the same level are mistaken, and we have to find a way for it to be accessible to everyone.
100%, because it's like that same concept of we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's kind of like, well, yeah, the concept makes sense, but actually practicality wise, there are so many other factors. And then you've got so many other factors underneath that, people's experiences, life experiences, the challenges that they've overcome, like all this other stuff that comes into it. So for you now, with what you've built, it sounds like you've kind of, over the last 4 years, 5 years, there's been this real kind of growth and establishment of it. Are you at a point now where it's kind of like there is next levels to expand into, or is it about sustaining what you've built already to then branch out in different ways, for example, like going off in different avenues to do more of the school stuff or to do more of the community centered things?
Yeah, definitely. So I think once we're quite stable, which will be in the next few years, I think, I've got no massive, and I never did have any massive grand designs to conquer the world. The biggest we'll get is probably London, but there's 60 million, not 60 million, 8 million, 10 million people in London. So I think that's probably big enough. No, what I would love to do is I'd love to find a way to get my message out to everybody. So that's what I'm working on. That, just working with maybe not, just me doing it in a hands-on physical way, but a way to get the message across so that I can speak to everyone at the same time, because that's what I miss doing. Because it was the feedback I used to get at the children's centres was amazing, so amazing. Because you assume, I make the assumption that everyone has the same level of food knowledge and cookery knowledge. Do we have a connection?
Yeah, you're back in. It's all good. You're all back.
Yeah. So even I have to be careful when I write the recipes that like a kid can make them with without any innate cookery knowledge.
Yeah, because I think, like you say, even so, I did a nutrition course during the pandemic actually, and I was like shocked. I'd worked in fitness for 20 years and from a different perspective of having an unhealthy relationship with food, having an eating disorder, which I'm very open about as a teenager, and kind of learning actually about food and how it blew my mind, the science behind it all, and it's and this kind of labeling of morality around food, and how actually taking off the labels almost and just stripping it back to the complete basics of what it's about. Because like you say, it's not just what we eat, it's the community of it, it's the being together, it's the appreciation, it's the mindfulness in this pace of life that is so fast now, to not even appreciate that what we're eating is something that has grown in the ground, for example, like just that next level connection to it. Do you find that with children, for example, they are either really interested in it or they're just like, I'm not interested? Or is there this kind of different perspective that we have as adults?
I think all kids are interested, all of them. And it's so beautiful because I don't know if you knew, I did after school clubs. And we didn't do cupcakes, we did really healthy stuff. So we used to like hide pear and sweet potato and parsnip in everything, in cupcakes and in savoury things. And the kids at the beginning of the class would go, oh, miss, I don't like sweet potato. And I'm like, okay, I never used to make anyone do anything, but they were all very keen to cook. So my classes, I worked at a local school, and my classes, and I think we did 6 a week, and they were full. They were always full. Kids love cooking. It's like saying, do you like painting? Of course they love, things with their hands, especially if there's a product at the end of it. And essentially, with getting kids to eat new things, it's really important that you work with their appetite. So you get kids at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's literally kids' most hungry time, I think. And so they're making something that they haven't made before. We're putting it in the oven, and they can smell it cooking. They're really hungry, and they'll go, "Yes, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat that." But I'll always take one back for my mum. Always, always one. And then,
Oh,
you know what I mean? And for me, cookery, like they worked in groups, so it's great for socialization. It's great for younger kids. It's great for motor skills improvement. It's great for self-confidence and esteem. It's amazing. And just that kind of, look, mum or dad, look what I made. No, can you try it? Tell me if you like it. And yeah, it has a huge power.
it's amazing, isn't it? Because you're talking about pride there as well. This sense
Yeah.
of look at what I've done, like look at what I've achieved, and especially with self-esteem, like you say, this deep sense of purpose within ourselves as people, like as children. It's,
Mm.
I think back to school and like the cooking classes, what they were so fun. They weren't just sitting there
Yeah.
copying stuff. They were very active, and I guess, for you as well now, like what do you do alongside running your business to keep you alive, to keep you feeling like you're in that sense of thriving?
I don't know. Do you know what? I was jotting a few things down there. I'm thinking, what do I do? I have a great network of very lovely friends where I live, and we do lots of lovely things together. I've got a very supportive husband, and we just try to get out, like everybody does, just try to make time for friendships. But I think it's, we all kind of fall into our own little ruts. And so I think this January, I'm focusing a bit more on me. Every time I do a vision board, it's all about work. It's all about where I want to be, what I want to do, because I am really driven. But I think this year it's more about looking after me. It's about, I'm getting on a bit. It's looking about doing more Pilates, getting a bit stronger, also yoga and meditation, which I flirt with. And I want to be in a more serious relationship with it, if you like. Yeah, I mean, in terms of thriving as a business, I mean, I think there's so many local kind of women's business networks that have popped up in the last few years. I mean, they're brilliant because working on your own can be so isolating. You have no one to bounce ideas off. You're not in a work environment or an office environment where, you can have a little meeting and have, loads of brainstorming. We don't have that. So to be part of kind of wider networks is amazing, and that really does help me.
Yeah, because it's interesting you bring that up. I was going to ask you if there is anything that you miss from, that environment of working in a company or in that
Yeah.
kind of more structured environment. And I think the collaboration and the banter and the having a laugh over something is always the thing that comes up for people.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had lunch with an old friend not long ago who I used to work with, and we worked very close together. We called, I mean, it's a bit sad, but we called each other Goose and Mav.
Love it.
But we were a tag team. It was like, you go in, I'll cover you. And we had a great work relationship, and a lot of my best friends were made in those days. And I think that I haven't really worked in an office for about 15 years, so I really miss those friendships and that banter. And because I'm, as you can tell, quite talkative and a very social person. So
Which is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and the creativity. Yeah,
Yeah, the creativity is fascinating, isn't it? Because I think there's something in this about that pressure cooker that kind of happens in parenthood where I've definitely found this because time changes so exponentially, and I'd always worked for myself before having a child, so it was almost worse because I'd gone from like freedom to feeling completely trapped. And this is, I guess, part of my own like figuring it out of how to feel fulfilled, because there's this sense of like hunger, like you say, with ambition, also recognizing we can't maybe do it all like we would want to if we weren't parents, but it's really important to still feel that depth because
yeah,
without it we kind of like, I was like, I think I'm like dying a bit here, like not dramatically, but just that energy that can start to go ironically when we do less, but we don't want to do too much. It is so complicated.
yeah. I mean, I was losing. I mean, I just wanted to do. I made a lot of money for companies in my time. And I was like saying to my husband, he said, you're working really hard. I mean, how would you feel if, if you were just working for yourself and you put all of that, ambition into, into your own thing? I'm sure it would fly. So he kind of talked me into it. But yeah, I mean, I was very driven. I mean, a lot of my friends went, "You're mad. What are you doing that for? You're earning really well." But I was driven, and I didn't want to get to 80 and go, or not even 80, but 60 and go, I really wish I'd done that, because now I have done it, and so I won't have any regrets.
100%. And thank you for sharing that, because I think just the invitation to recognize where we are in environments that are comfortable financially, and that might also be fulfilling us in a different way, but that there is like a niggle, like an itch to scratch. And it's when that niggle doesn't go away, as you have scratched it so, viscerally to create what you've created, and the magic that can come and the same fulfillment that you can have, and the money almost, yes, it will come, or maybe it doesn't, but actually it's almost not part of the reasoning behind the choice.
Yeah.
I think it's always sorry, go on.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, it is. I think money can only take you so far. I mean, as a person, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed treating my mum. I enjoyed like buying drinks for my friends. I never really ran with a crowd that had lots of money. So sometimes I just kind of, I don't know, I was like, well, I don't really need it all, do I? So yeah, and I have to say, I quite miss the massive paychecks. It's funny, I think in German there's a word for like being a salaried employee, and it's like, oh, you get like money for nothing, it just comes.
Yes.
It's a hustle. It is. But I mean, I kind of quite enjoy hustling. I quite like, finding a new area, and yeah. And if you can do that while helping people, then you're onto something good.
100%. And there's something so rewarding about the fears that we might face in the process of that, and also, like you say, just opening up the idea that actually, who says that getting money for nothing doesn't also become an end result, but when it's not the focus, there's such a broader perspective that you can enjoy. So thank you so much, Jackie, for coming on today and sharing all of that. And I just wonder, like, if the version of you in this room today had a nugget of wisdom to give that version of you in the kitchen thinking about all of this, what would you say to her, that version of you?
So my biggest issue was finding something I wanted to do that ticked all of my boxes. And I used to sit just over there on my computer, and I had a million post-it notes up there, with everything, all the things my new job had to, all the criteria I had to meet. And it was actually, I would almost always say, talk to someone, talk to a mentor, or talk to a business coach, or talk to somebody that will help you crystallize your ideas, because I did, and she really, really helped me. And I was like, right, that's it. Especially if you procrastinate quite a lot, and then you can just do it for like 10 years and never actually do anything. And I was determined to do something, so I did take advice, which normally I don't, but I did. Really useful.
Thank you so much. Yes, open-minded, and also reaching out for help. It's invaluable, isn't it? Even just the sharing of it, the processing of it, so you get it out of you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because I think what I used to say to her was, oh my God, I think about it in the shower every morning. When you obsess with things in the shower and you go, oh, what can I do? And what can I do? And I just said to her, I was like, Emily, I don't think about it in the shower every morning. I don't think about what it is I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I was like, thank you. You've sorted it out.
Oh my gosh, that's quite a freeing way, isn't it?
It's really freeing. Yeah, it was amazing.
Jackie, thank you so much. How can we find you? How can we come and support what you're doing?
Well, I have a web page, which is www.stirritup.org.uk, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Stir It Up Meal Kits.
Amazing. And I'll make sure I pop all of those details in the show notes. And I always invite people on the podcast to just, if there's anything else you'd like to share or impart into the space before we close. There might not be.
A little product placement then. So it's half term soon, in a couple of weeks, and I think, you know, the pressure is off a little bit in the kitchen and in the household generally, and it's a really good time to get the kids cooking. So if you're going to do anything, we also do special recipes over half term that are really easy. So they're kind of made for kids to start off. But even if you don't buy a kit, just get them cooking.
Great. Jackie, thank you so much for being with us today. And if you have liked this episode, please do rate and share it to help inspire not only us all to get back into the kitchen, but to inspire other people who might also have thoughts and ideas that they might want to bring to life. So thank you so much, and we'll be back next week. See you later.